Hey everybody, this is Cheddar, and I'm going to be doing a revised version of my 85 Rogue DPS guide. I realized the first one I got a couple things wrong. I was using a slightly wrong rotation, but I don't mean for that to ruin my credibility. I'm playing on a slightly different character. It's the same character, but I got a race change. It's a female undead now. My name is Declare. I'm on the Stone Mall Horde server. If you're on, you can send me a message or something. But pretty much this is a revised, better updated gear and rotation guide for the 85 Assassination Rogue. So to start off, I want to go over the spec, and I found, and through studies through elitist jerks and most websites, recommend a 31-2-8 spec. A couple things to note are in combat, after you've maxed out your assassination tree, in combat you want to go 2 out of 3 precision instead of 3 out of 3. In the long run, it'll be better to get your opportunity to 30% instead of 20, and keep your precision at 4% instead of 6. This will add probably an overall DPS upgrade of about 2%, which it really doesn't seem like a lot, but in the end it'll add up. Now if we want to go to glyphs, the glyphs are pretty self-explanatory. You want to use Mutilate because of course it's your main ability to get combo points, and it reduces the energy cost. You want to use Glyph of Rupture because this is both a search, or not a search and destroy, a slice and dice and rupture spec, and it's easier to have rupture up for longer with the Glyph of Rupture. And you want to use Glyph of Backstab because in this spec you implement Backstab into a lower than 35% health rotation, and I'll explain all that in the video later. Then as for your second tier of, I was going to say perks, I'm thinking Call of Duty right now. As for your second tier of glyphs, you want Glyph of Tricks of the Trade. It does lower the damage done by the player you grant it on. However, it reduces your energy cost, so you get more energy, and you having more energy will add more DPS overall. I chose Glyph of Sprint because it's really nice to have 100% sprint every minute for 8 seconds. And then I also chose Glyph of Fan of Knives because, in my opinion and the opinion of many others, Assassination is the most prominent AoE spec, and to have your AoE Fan of Knives reach 50% higher radius, it helps a lot. And of course for the last 3 perks, or glyphs, or whatever you want to call them, you can choose whatever you want. None of them actually directly affect your DPS. In some fights, however, Safe Fall could help you take a little less damage, but I don't know any that'll actually make it any different at all. So now that I've gone through talents, I want to go through gear. And the gear I'm using right now, I have dual Epic Vicious Gladiators, Shanker and Shiv, and then I have the Epic Weapon. But all my other gear is really bad. It's mostly PvP gear actually. But not to worry, it is geared right, it's gemmed right, reforged correctly. And pretty much what you want to do, I'm using this character because he's not extremely geared. I have the epic weapons, but really right after you do some heroics, you should have gear just about as good as his. Or hers, I guess, I don't know. So your stats in order, I think the EP for agility is about 2.6, whereas hit for yellow is 1.7, hit for spell is about 1.6. Pretty much what that means is, if you can get agility, take it. Specifically in the subtlety and assassination trees, agility is your main ability, or your main stat. In combat, it's still the best, but just the best by a little bit. But in assassination, you definitely want agility over any other spec, or sorry, any other stat. As for your second stat, you want to get hit, and you want to keep stacking hit until you're eventually hit capped, which for the Assassination Rogue, hit cap for yellow or abilities with the 2 out of 3 precision is 481, and for spells, which is what you want to get next, is 1332. After that you can start speccing into mastery. However, I'm not fully spell capped, so I'm still reforging and gemming into hit. My hit right now is at 954, which isn't bad for a full, almost full PvP set. So pretty much what you want to do with reforging is take your crit or your haste, which are your 2 most useless abilities, and you want to take those and reforge it into hit, assuming that you're not hit capped yet. So as you can see in all of my gear, or almost all of it, I lose a little bit of some other stat. You can do expertise because it's very difficult to hit the expertise cap, and it's not really worth it in my opinion. You can get rid of haste or crit, and you can put it into hit, so that I went from about 300 to 954 crit, or 954 hit, just from reforging. And lastly, for gear, what you want to do is gem correctly, obviously. If it's a red slot, you definitely want 40 agilities, and I am a jewel crafter, so in some of my slots I can put 67 agility, which adds about a total of 81 agility, more than you'd have if you were not a jewel crafter. In a yellow slot, you want to add agility and mastery, as you see I've done right here, to meet the slot bonus. And in a blue slot, you want to use the agility and hit gems. And that's about it for the gearing. And here's the slow-mo damage rotation for the rogue. What you want to do to get full access of your overkill is to start off fast. Open up with Garrote so you can apply venomous wounds. And then immediately afterwards, what you want to do is hit Slice and Dice, because Envenom refreshes Slice and Dice, so it's not important to have a high stack right away. However, right afterwards you want to Mutilate and then apply Rupture. You always want to have a Rupture on your target regardless of how long is remaining. After that, you want to get up to 5 combo points and use Cold Blood to get that cooldown out of the way. Then you can use Envenom, and actually this will refresh your Slice and Dice so that you won't have to do it later on in the fight. After that, you want to get 4 or 5 combo points. I got 5, and use Rupture again. This way you can keep your Rupture up for longer. After that, it's pretty simple. What you want to do is, if you have more than 8 seconds on your Rupture and more than 4 combo points, you want to use Envenom. Use Mutilate to get combo points all the way up until 4 or 5. If your Rupture is below 7 seconds or about to fall off, then please, I recommend using Rupture and not just wasting your time on a Envenom that does less damage than the Rupture does over time. Now I'm going to explain how I do this damage and where the damage comes from in a million damage test. Okay, so if we go to analyze the damage I did last fight, it stayed around steady 10,000 damage the entire fight, and it was higher than this in the original video to demonstrate the Assassination rotation, the slow-mo video I just did. So it can be higher than this. The fight was a little bit unlucky, but I'd say in my gear, which isn't that great, it probably will consist of about steady 10k DPS, but remember, this is unbuffed on a target raid dummy. So it did drop down to 9600 here, but that's because it took forever for my poison to drop off. So if we go through this, the number 1 damage was instant poison, and that made up about 22%, and then you had melee, which as you can see, I'm not fully hit capped. I did get a couple dodges from expertise and whatnot, and then 13% were missed because my hit cap isn't full. And then Venomous Wound, like I said, did a lot of damage, and this is from keeping up your Rupture and your Garrote. And I did actually vanish partway through the battle so that I could get my Garrote back up for extra damage and extra Venomous Wound procs. And what Venomous Wound does is pretty much it does damage, and it gives you energy back. So the more bleed effects you have on your target, the more energy you have, the more damage you do. And then number 4 was Mutilate, which was not really that surprising because the amount of energy it takes to do Mutilate compared to the amount of times you hit an enemy with instant poison, it just doesn't compare. And then there was Deadly Poison, which is only made up 13% of my DPS, and then like I said, in Venom, it really did not do that much damage, which is why I say it's really always better to keep a Rupture up than to do an Envenom. And you might be thinking, why would I want to keep Rupture up? Rupture was all the way down at the bottom at 3.3%. However, what you're not realizing, or maybe you are realizing, what you're not considering here is that Rupture was the main thing that procced Venomous Wound, which was the 3rd contender in DPS. So if Rupture is gone, then also so is 14% of your DPS. So really, Rupture made up about 17%. It's a little inaccurate because of Garrote, but it's close enough. So the most important things to remember: instant poison on the main hand, deadly poison on the offhand, deadly poison on the ranged weapon, and then you always want to make sure your slice and dice is up and your rupture is up. And that's it for my revised 85 Assassination Rogue Guide. If you want more World of Warcraft videos, more Call of Duty commentaries, please check out my channel, check out my other videos, and subscribe because I will be making more videos soon. Thanks for watching. Cheddar out.